It just seems very clear to me now that Netanyahu has Trump completely under his thumb. And it sounds like it's from fear. Trump feared for his life because he thinks that Israel could kill him, would kill him. There's a real fear there. And you know, it's just that fear is so pervasive now. I mean, it's been throughout the Middle East, right? Everybody's worried. What is Israel going to do here? Are they going to bomb my capital now? And nobody's safe. Tunisia, Qatar, it's insane. And then, you know, with the Charlie Kirk assassination, you know, I don't have any evidence. You know, I don't understand, you know, what happened. But there's, you know, Tyler Robinson is not confessing. He's not admitting to anything. You know, I need to, like I said, I need complete transparency to be able to feel comfortable that this was not Israel, because my default position right now is that I believe that Israel is some way behind this, because it just, everything seemed too coordinated. Everything around this is fishy. Like, you know, they said they found a gun wrapped in a towel. It's like, okay, let me see the body cam footage of when they found that. Where is it? They just tell us these things without us actually hearing any of the, or seeing any of the primary sources. Everything just seems to be piecemeal and fabricated, and it doesn't make sense. People are saying, oh, he was living at home with his parents and his father turned him in, and then said, oh no, he has a transgender or transitioning roommate and that's his lover, and that's what, nothing just seems to make sense. And then, you know, and then you just see the Israelis like, here's a mural that we have 2-3 hours after he's dead. It's done. It's painted. You know, I don't think they had it ready to go, but it just seemed like they, you know, there's a segment on Fox News and how Charlie Kirk stands with Israel, even though we know that Charlie Kirk was fearing for his life from Israel, apparently from two separate sources. You know, that Harrison Smith guy from InfoWars, he's the one that first said it on, I think, August 13th, that someone close to Charlie says that he thinks Israel will kill him if he turns against them. And then Max Blumenthal, his source inside, also had confirmed the same thing, that Charlie was afraid and was under incredible pressure from the Zionists. And these were two separate sources confirmed by Harrison Smith. So these are two separate people. So it just, and I think even if it isn't true, that there are enough people in the world and in America that will believe this, that will just say that, yeah, I think Israel probably was behind this, unless you can show us absolute proof that it wasn't. And maybe that's what was maybe the significance of his death, is that in a sense it's brought that fear closer to home, maybe for a lot of people, realizing that, like, you know, is this a message you're sending to our politicians, Trump, that you better do everything we do or we'll kill you, because we specialize in assassinations. You see what we do. We don't care about anybody. We kill women, children, politicians, negotiators, no regard. We'll kill 100 innocent people to get one maybe supposed person of interest, you know. And so, anyways, if we're living in this world of fear, something that's so kind of Machiavellian strategy by Netanyahu, I think it's effective for a little while, but that never can never last, right? It has, you can't rule by fear forever.
No, I agree. Yeah, in the long run, it's going to, I think, will lead to the destruction, to the fall of Israel. But in the short run, you'd have to say this has been an effective strategy, you know, for the reasons that you put forth. Everyone's afraid, including apparently the President of the United States. Yeah, I read the same media reports, and I read the Gray Zone article by Max Blumenthal and by his wife, Anya. Yeah, he says that, well, Trump, actually, I guess it was during I guess maybe it was the most recent Netanyahu visit, the Secret Service discovered the Mossad, or you know, maybe a similar agency of the Israeli government, actually placing electronic devices. It didn't explain exactly what they were, but I think must have been some kind of listening devices in the first responder vehicles of the Secret Service, of the U.S. Secret Service, right there at the White House. And this is not the first time this kind of thing has happened. I saw a story that was really kind of funny, that, you know, Netanyahu, when Boris Johnson was still Prime Minister of England, yet Netanyahu visited him, you know, they're great pals, at least publicly. And Netanyahu asked him, you know, for the use of Boris Johnson's private toilet, and used it, and then uh, uh, shortly thereafter, it was discovered that there was a listening device in there. So anyway, the Brits actually suspect that Netanyahu himself placed one in his toilet, which is so anyway, these people, they're all so chummy in front of the cameras, but we know that there was real hatred. Again, there was that hot mic moment, when Sarkozy and Obama, were caught discussing Netanyahu. Yeah, I hate the guy. It's just everybody agreed, but they all pretend to be the best of friends. And I think in addition to the hate, there's some real fear. These decapitation strikes and assassinations. Assassinations have been something that the Israelis have done since before the State of Israel. So the very high-profile assassinations were conducted even before, and it's been a part of their modus operandi for quite a while. Now it's been expanded through these decapitation strikes, and I think it causes some legitimate fear. You're thinking what won't these people do? If I stand in the way, they'll probably come for me. And in the short run, it can work. I think in the long run, people in different powers start to think of ways that how can we take them down? We just can't live with this. This is something, this country, this government has to go.
Right. I mean, don't you think, shouldn't people already be doing that within the U.S. government? This is supposed to be our closest ally, but if the president of the United States actually is afraid of his life because he thinks that Israel could kill him if he steps out of line, don't you think you are the president of the United States? This is supposed to be the most powerful country in the world. You're supposed to have unlimited resources. If Israel's supposed to be a rabid attack dog and it's turning on you, then you shoot the dog, right? It's rabid. It's out of control. So do you think that's a chance that there will be enough people with integrity that can stand up and
release? In the near term, I don't see it happening. I just said I think there's probably a lot of cognitive dissonance going on right now. It's just like everybody has, all these people have convinced themselves that Israel is their greatest friend, and our best ally in the Middle East, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but they are becoming aware of these things and observing these behaviors, including like the recent attack on Qatar, which is actually a country very close to the U.S., not exactly an ally, but you could describe them as a friend, and one that is, recently has shown extreme generosity to the U.S. and to the president of the U.S. in particular, and so that has to create a certain amount of cognitive dissonance. But people, it's hard for, I think some people, a lot of those people just will never change their minds, no matter what, no matter how much evidence is presented to them. It's just become like part of who they are, part of who they are is that they believe in Israel and that Israel is always right. And just think about Stalin supporters in the Soviet Union who went to their deaths still, because of orders issued by Stalin, but still praising, the great leader. They didn't understand what was going on, but, they just couldn't give up. That was just part of who they were. They were believers in Stalin. And I think you have people like that in the U.S. government, except they don't believe in Stalin. They believe in Zionism. And unfortunately, there are too many of them. But, at the edges, not everybody is like that. There are people that are more reasonable. We have evidence that Charlie Kirk was starting to wake up. We don't know how far he would have gone, but, he had some awareness and he was beginning to change his views. And that's probably happening to other people. Now, I don't think we'll see any real results in the near term, but it's part of this process. We see it happening, much more rapidly outside of the political class. Again, the opinion polls show an astounding shift in attitude towards Palestine and Israel within the general population, especially the younger population. And it's just a seismic change has taken place. Now, the political class is different, and we're just seeing things on the edges now. But I think I think all the evidence is that in the long run, the support for Israel is going to dry up and there is going to be a real reaction, and then Israel is going to be in real trouble. Now, I don't know how long that will take. It's going to be a matter of years. Again, these things can happen much faster than you expect sometimes, because you're so used to the status quo, that you start to think the status quo is going to last forever, but it never does. And when it falls, it often falls very suddenly. So who knows? It may not be too far in the future. But then also, I can be amazed, like saying that, okay, now the status quo has got to fall, and the status quo just persists. It can go on a lot longer than you think it should. So that's the timing is just very, very hard to predict. But I am confident that in the end, the support for Zionism in the U.S. will end, and we're just seeing the beginnings of that end now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the issue that Netanyahu has is that he needs to move quickly while he still has some level of support. But the quicker he moves, the quicker he loses his support. But he has a lot of timelines that he's trying to fit in together. He's got his corruption, his own health and life. There's the political charges against him, and then just the fact that he knows support is dropping out. So it's like, I think in his mind, he's just got to go for broke now, right? He just says, let's just use up all that support now. We know it'll drain down, but we just got to go now. So I think this has to happen soon. This big all out brawl in the, I don't know what it's going to be exactly. I mean, I think it's probably going to be another missile war with Iran, and then it's just going to be, what does the U.S. do? Are we going with Samson option? Mm-hmm. I think it's coming soon. I just feel like it's coming, but I have nothing to back it up. My feeling.
For some reason, everybody thinks, like, I hear all these different analysts, people I very highly respect, and they all seem to be sure that it's going to happen before the end of this year. The next phase of the Iran-Israel war, and they, I can't say that they're wrong. It's just that I don't see any evidence right now pointing to a renewal of the conflict. Now, there's always a chance that the absence of evidence doesn't prove that another attack isn't being planned. Maybe this time the Israelis are just going to come, out of nowhere. Actually, the previous attack, we had a sense that something was on the horizon, something was going to happen pretty soon. It just happened quicker than we expected and quicker than the Iranians expected, so they were taken by surprise. But there were many signals and leaks and, suggesting that, an attack was imminent, was going to happen within days or, at the most weeks, and then it did happen. We're getting nothing like that now. And so it's hard for me to believe that there's anything imminent. Again, maybe this time they're just going to pull it off, without warning. But that would be unusual. A major war with generally countries, including Israel, when they prepare for a major war, they want to have the element of surprise, but they also want to prepare their allies and their own people for it. And kind of like they do what they call those shaping operations, or that's the various kind of operations that prepare for an attack. We're talking about something purely military when we're talking shaping, artillery strikes and that kind of thing. But they do their kind of the equivalent within the information space, a shaping operation to prepare for the attack. And that's been the pattern anyway in the past. It was certainly what preceded the attack on Iran in June. And remember, it was preceded by that report issued by the IAEA. That just like the next day it happened. It was part of they were working to kind of delay the information groundwork, the justification for the attack. They were careful to do that, and I just don't see any signs of that happening now.
Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering how we still have politicians that are in support of Israel. Do you think it's mostly, I feel like more people are supporting Israel out of fear now? Do you think so, than actual true belief? Because I feel like even people like Mike Huckabee, that's been a true believer, it's just like, I have a feeling like deep down inside, you gotta know that there's something wrong. He expressed a few little words of concern when, Taipei, the Christian village, was attacked. And there were some, and then after they killed some American in the West Bank, and, he expressed a couple words, but I just feel like you gotta know, or maybe he just wants a holy war and that's his position. But I just feel like most people that are power, I just don't understand how anybody could be like what Israel's doing is okay and you feel supportive of it. If anybody is saying how great Israel is and support everything they're doing, to me, it just if you're a prominent figure and you're that close to the reality of what Israel is doing, for me, I just feel like you're compromised. I understand the Christian Zionist evangelicals, they're far away. They're spoon-fed their narrative and their belief, and they're fed whatever they see on Fox News. But I mean, if you're somebody that's high up in the administration, you deal with them. I mean, look what just happened after Charlie Kirk got assassinated. Marco Rubio and some other American officials go over and kiss the wall, and they're wearing the kippah and everything. It's like, what is this? Right after the assassination, you go over here and pledge your allegiance to Israel. You know that this is not a positive look, that this is not what people want to see in America, yet they do it. And then Brian Mast introduces a bill, to say that if you criticize Israel, then the Marco Rubio can revoke your passport. Like, that's right. Insane. Yeah. I mean, like, think about us. We're very critical of Israel. My sister, your daughter lives in Moscow. You want to be able to travel. What if they just say, what if our podcast gets big enough and they say that this is a voice that we need to silence? You can't travel. No, sorry, take away your passport. I can't go back to China. I can't do it. It's like, that's just nuts, because I criticize Israel, a country that is engaged in a genocide. It's not even my country. It's a country on the other side of the world that are killing women and children, that's being live streamed to us on our phone, and you will take away my passport? This is just so absurd. It's so absurd that I just don't understand how anybody now can, unless you just completely have your head in the sand, or you're compromised. I mean, like, that's my opinion. I just feel like that I feel like Mike Huckabee, like, maybe he's just an extreme believer, but he's probably compromised too. I just think all of these guys, the way they got into power is that, the Zionists find them, they get them compromised, and then they help them get to the top. And then if they start to sway, move away, then they'll kill you, like they did Charlie Kirk, in my opinion. If there was truly an anti-Israel candidate that was wanting to cut off all, aid, no more military aid, no more arms shipments to Israel, Israel will do whatever they can to stop that person, including trying to kill them, right? I mean, we know that. We know that's true. They will stop at nothing to preserve or to expand Israel, whatever it is, to create greater Israel, to get that support. They will stop at nothing. So, like, but then if they do, just everybody knows who's doing it now, and it's just like, I just don't understand that Israel is so screwed. They've overplayed their hand. People are onto them. They even like just the fact that this Charlie Kirk assassination, that there's a huge cohort of people out there that are immediately think that this was Israel. That just shows you the game is up. Even that they don't know, Israel can't do a false flag now. Because anytime there's something that happens, everybody's going to be like, yeah, you can, you say that it was this person, but we don't believe it. We believe it was you. And that fact in itself, I think, is just another nail in the coffin for Israel.
Yeah, no, I think that's important. Like, personally, I don't see any evidence that Israel was behind this assassination. But I am, in fact, encouraged by people like you and many, many others that are just immediately pointing to Israel. And it shows that
if I was a betting man, I would bet the house. Okay. Right. I'm just
Well, I wouldn't, but that's okay in a way. I think it is a good sign. It's a healthy sign that people are suspicious of Israel. And in fact, Netanyahu was asked it directly. It shows that it wasn't just like on the very fringes of the internet or something. There was a big enough murmuring, hey, wait a second, I bet Israel was behind this. Was it CNN or Fox News? I can't remember.
Newsmax, I think, yeah.
Okay, Newsmax, okay. But asked him directly, and he had to go, give a long explanation. And now you see all these efforts, like every day they're coming out with new, hundreds of tweets, but then murals and everything to somehow claim Charlie Kirk as one of their own and bury this The reports from the end of his career, his last couple of months, a few months, that he was starting to turn against Israel. They clearly are, I think, worried about this. This is something new, and it's, again, I think it's a healthy sign. Even if I think that this particular claim, just lacks evidence, it's just the fact that there is this real skepticism, beyond that, suspicion of Israel. It's justified. There's a reason to be suspicious of Israel because of its actions.
Yeah, just look what it's done in the past 2 years. Pager attacks, killing, sniping children. Like, if you're okay with sniping kids,
right?
There's enough people there that are doing that they comfortable killing anybody.
Yeah,
they don't care.
Yeah. No, there was a report that came out.
What a horrible.
Yeah, there was a report that came out quite recently. There was a good number of international doctors who said, they observed it was well over 100 children that had just one wound. It was either a shot to the chest or a shot to the head. And they say this is sniping. This is very clear evidence of sniping. They were sniping these kids.
I heard more than that it's that some doctors are saying that it's clear that they, on certain days, they would aim for certain parts. Like, today is, we go for the neck. Tomorrow, this day, they're all headshot wounds. Next day, they're all chest wounds. It's like one where they were just going for the genitals of men. It's just so messed up, just sick.
Yeah, it is.
And do we know anything about the death toll right now in Gaza? I saw some things, people saying 680,000, and then I saw the IDF itself admitted more than 200,000.
Well, there's nothing really solid. Again, the bare minimum is what the health ministry in Gaza puts out. We know that their capabilities are greatly limited, and we're only
five times.
And we're only talking about the direct deaths. Remember, in the end, there's going to be. It's always true of wars that there are many more indirect deaths than direct deaths. That's true of virtually every war. Now, it may not be true of the war in Ukraine, because, again, actually, the civilian casualties are just unusually low in that case. But it's at the other extreme, of course, in Gaza. The civilian casualties are unusually high, and there's been this deliberate attack on the health infrastructure and just everything that makes life possible. So I'm sure that the indirect deaths will be higher. But we're like in 64,000, and that's just the bare minimum of direct deaths, and we just know it has to be higher than that. Everything else is just a guess at this point. And then as far as direct starvation deaths, people that, where the primary cause of death was starvation, I believe we're over 400, 450 at this point. Aid seekers, we're at about 2,500 aid seekers have been gunned down.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so crazy. Yeah, I even just feel like historically, has there ever been anything that's just so blatantly evil? Just openly, because a lot of times all these conflicts, they're horrific, but they're complicated, what starts it and this, but just to me, it just seems like black and white. You just have a captive population that you held captive, and you're just slaughtering them. Okay, well, I think we can probably end it pretty soon, unless there's anything else you want to say, Dad.
No, I think we've said enough for today.
Okay, sounds good. All right, have a good rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay,
bye-bye.
Bye-bye.